Welcome to this week's HopeCast. Today is Friday, January 27th, 2023. I'm your host, David Lapp. Today I want to talk a little bit about food waste and how you can make a difference, day-to-day life with food waste and utilizing more of what you already have versus just seeing it being wasted. I personally feel like food insecurity, people going to bed hungry is an issue that shouldn't be. And if we can work together and make a difference, even in the way that we use our own resources and utilize more of what God has entrusted to us, I believe we can have a greater impact in the world. So the scripture for today is where Jesus was talking, where he fed the 5,000 in John 6:11 to 13. Jesus took the loaves, and when he had given thanks, he distributed them to the disciples, and the disciples to those sitting down, and likewise the fish as they had wanted. So when they were filled, he said to his disciples, "Gather up the fragments that remain, so that nothing is lost." In the Message Bible, it says, "Gather the leftovers, so nothing is wasted." And I believe, if this was a relevant enough topic to specifically put it in the Bible, that they should utilize what was produced so that nothing is wasted, I believe it's an issue that we could look at today as well. In verse 13 it says, "Therefore they gathered them up and filled 12 baskets with the fragments of barley loaves which were left over by those who had eaten." That's always an interesting story about how Jesus took the little boy's lunch and multiplied it to feed 5,000 people. We live in a world where we don't have to take a little boy. We don't necessarily, see it as multiplying the resources. I see it more as an opportunity to utilize the resources that are already produced. Food waste, according to Forbes.com, is a $400 billion problem in the U.S. $400 billion problem just simply on the food waste side of things. In 2021, the USDA spent $182 billion to fight food insecurity. $182 billion was spent by the USDA to fight food insecurity in 2021. This would be on like the SNAP program, the WIC program, child nutrition programs, and programs like that. I believe if we can utilize the resources of the community instead of focusing on the government to solve these problems, I believe we can do a much better job than that with a lot less money. So as we keep growing, we see some of the huge opportunities that God has put in front of us. And yes, we realize that it's going to take millions of dollars to accomplish those goals, possibly billions. But I believe if we would have 10% of what the government spends every year on to fight food insecurity, I believe we could have a greater impact with the 10% and is currently being utilized by what's being spent. Simply because some of the regulations that go with fighting food insecurity from a government level, I'm not going to get into a lot of those, but I believe the private sector has an opportunity here to utilize food waste to help fight hunger and share the gospel at the same time. So we have a passion here at Blessing of Hope to empower the church to be the church and reach out to the community. And our belief is that the reason the government is in welfare is because the church dropped it. And if we can empower the church to pick that back up and make a difference in the community, we can have a greater impact. Why is the food wasted? A lot of people don't really think about why food is wasted. Yes, you see, at a restaurant or in your homes, there's food that you have to throw out. That's a fraction of it. A large percentage is also, according to my research, about a third of the food is wasted at the manufacturer or producer level. About a third is wasted through the supply chain, through the distribution centers and the grocery stores, and about a third is wasted at the homeowner restaurant level. So that's a rough numbers. 40 million tons of food is on a low side, what I'm finding, that's wasted annually. I've seen numbers as high as 80 million tons. But any way you look at it, it's a huge problem and a huge opportunity to utilize that and make an impact. So why the food is wasted? Sometimes it's simply overproduced. Depending on whether certain crops do a lot better, and it's just simply overproduced. Dock rejections. A truck might show up at a dock, and for whatever reason that truck gets rejected, whether that's it could be a semi-load of fresh chicken that is frozen instead of being fresh. The reefer was set too low. Doesn't mean the product is waste. It just means that the customer had a specific product that they ordered, and if what arrives isn't what they ordered, they reject the product. And just because somebody rejects it doesn't mean the product is no good, because that product could still be utilized. It just might not be at the peak freshness anymore. Mislabeled, misshipped, or misshaped products are all factors that play into the food waste issue. Just to give you an example, like a pepper, a 3-cornered pepper gets rejected because it only had 3 corners on it. People want a 4-cornered pepper. Something might be overripe, it's getting too close to the expiration date, and retail stores, they want time to sell the product while it's still fresh. But as you think about food waste, there's so many places that you can see food being wasted daily that doesn't need to be that way. Expiration dates, best by dates, use by, freeze by, all kinds of dates that are on foods like that. According to the USDA website, food poisoning bacteria does not grow in the freezer, so no matter how long food is frozen, it's safe to eat. That's right on USDA website. I recommend that you do some research. Search for food waste or food expiration dates. There's all kinds of food statistics like that you can search for. There's actually a link in the comments below that you can check out, and check out some of the research and just do your own research. USDA website states that most shelf-stable foods are safe indefinitely. If they're sealed and they're shelf-stable, they're safe indefinitely. It doesn't mean that they might not be at the peak freshness anymore, but they're still safe to eat. And if we're dealing with food insecurity, yes, we want to give them a good product. But just because something is expired the date on the box says it's expired does not mean it's trash. And basically what an expiration date means, or a best by date, they all mean different stuff, but the best by date is basically saying that the manufacturer guarantees 100% freshness to that date. So, if it's a week after the best by date, or if it's a month after the best by date, it might only be 98% fresh anymore. It's not trash, it's just not guaranteed peak freshness. And the way I do it is if it smells good and it tastes good, I eat it. I mean, I know some people don't think that way, but I do. And I believe that there's a lot of food that is wasted unnecessarily in homes simply because people are reading the dates and they're simply using the dates as their gauge of freshness instead of actually testing the product and seeing if it's good. My understanding is that expiration dates were initially designed as a marketing strategy. There's 2 products that we are not legally allowed to distribute after expiration date in Pennsylvania. One is baby food. That is a federally mandated restriction. The other one is milk. That is a state-regulated restriction. But other than that, I'm not aware of any restrictions that we have on distributing food after expiration date. And if we can utilize more of this food that is thrown out because of a date that somebody put on there to keep the product fresh, we can have a lot of good product that right now just get thrown out. Right now at Blessings of Hope, most of the food that we get is in date, but it's getting close to expiration date. But just knowing some of this stuff can help to utilize more of what's out there. Most times, the dates refer to quality, not safety, according to the USDA. Most shelf-stable foods are safe indefinitely. I've shared that already. But if we can understand, these are quotes coming right off the USDA website. These are not just some random facts out there. I mean, check it out for yourself. There's all kinds of data out there on expiration dates and what they mean, on food waste statistics. Do some research. I'd love to hear some feedback on this. If anybody has any feedback, feel free to go to our website, blessingsofhope.com. Go to the About Us page. I think it's blessingsofhope.com/about, and then scroll down to the bottom. There's a feedback form. If you have questions about this, concerns about what I shared, love to have your feedback, and I'll reach out to you directly. But there's so many opportunities that we have to utilize the resources that God has given us and find creative ways to preserve food. There's a whole world out there of whether that's fermentation, canning, juicing, freezing, all kinds of ways of preserving food that retains a lot of the value. Dehydration is a big one we're just getting into here at Blessings of Hope, is taking fresh produce, drying it, and using it, for years to come. Freezing leftovers and serving them later. I'm thinking of an organization in Indiana that we connect with, Cultivate Food Rescue, where they take food from restaurants, that's prepared foods, put it on a plate and freeze it, and these are microwavable meals for people in need. So you might not want to eat leftovers yourself, but it's a way that you can take a meal to somebody that is struggling to find enough to eat. Another simple strategy is just planning before you just go and buy something. Do you actually need it? Will buying this product will that enhance? Are you going to utilize it, or is buying in bulk a bad idea where you're then throwing away half of what you bought? Quote from today is, "Waste not, want not." It's an old adage that goes back to the. Sorry about that. It's an old adage that goes back to the 1500s, and it denotes conserving resources so they can be used in the future. And if we understand the concept of utilizing what God has entrusted to us and finding creative ways to use that and bless others, use it for our future, and actually make an impact, just simply by understanding some of these principles, I believe we can have a greater impact on society. So thank you for joining me today on HopeCast. I'm David Lapp, your host here, also the CEO of Blessings of Hope. To learn more about Blessings of Hope, you can check out our website, blessingsofhope.com. God bless you, and remember, you can bring hope to everybody that you meet.